Morning time.
Mm-hmm.
How was it?
My
You were
morning?
riding around with your daughter today, right?
Yeah. Monday mornings we do gymnastics.
Yes.
So she's just coming up 3 soon, 2 months. I can't believe it. But
Time's flying.
yeah. She's been sick for the past like 3-4 days. Fever. You know, my son gets it from school, passes it to her, and then it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
But this morning she felt like she didn't have the fever this morning, which is good, and she was energetic. So we're like, okay, we're paying for it, right? So let's just
Might as well.
at the end of the day, that's what's in the back of my mind. Is
100%.
like, I'm not gonna waste this opportunity.
Yeah, man.
So I brought her to gymnastics, and so she has a teacher or a coach that is consistently there, and then when the coach isn't there, there's a woman that fills in for her, and she's an older woman, right? She's an older gymnastics coach.
Okay.
The consistent coach she's like 19 years old.
Okay. The
Because
one
it's
that's
like
usually there.
Yeah, it's like a parent and taught class,
Okay.
right? And
How much kids are in the class or in one class? Usually.
like in one class, there's like 4 or 5. It's like
that's dope.
not many. Yeah.
No, that's dope. So they're probably getting a lot of attention. I was picturing like 10, 15 kids just like jumping around. Yeah.
Well, the kids are young. They're like,
Yeah.
I think 3 is like the oldest. So they're not really doing much. They're just learning to participate in like socialize.
Yeah.
Right. And they get to play on the different apparatus.
Yeah.
There's like a what do you call it? Obstacle course. And
Genuinely, it's good to get those, because like the earlier you can start, especially like with sports, like getting those sort of like motor units and like neural connections from that point to the point where, all right, you want to get more skilled or whatever, like you already have such a strong foundation.
it's so important.
Yeah.
And you see the different levels in each kid, right?
Right
Like
away.
right away, because some kids may not have the coordination yet.
Yeah.
It's funny because my daughter will be like walking on the beam by herself.
Mm-hmm.
She'll be swinging on the rings.
Yeah.
She can do toes to the bar.
Okay.
Yeah, she can do some crazy stuff already at this age.
So you're thinking, all right, Olympics, here we come.
No, man. Like when I see that, all I see are dollar signs.
I thought you were gonna be like, whatever makes her happy. You're like, nah, like we can take this,
The Olympics, I think.
Is it though? I feel like it's
In the States, if
big
you win a
bags.
gold medal, it's
Yeah.
$1 million that you get for each gold medal you win. But in Canada, it's like $250K or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, everybody. But
Yeah, it's 260. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Put it in the comments, man. Leave a
I'm
review.
not sure exactly how much you make from that. But usually it's the sponsorship.
Yeah.
It's
The bag is the sponsorship and what you do with the medal afterwards.
it's endorsements.
Yeah.
Because I know like Usain Bolt is doing okay.
Yeah.
Doing just fine.
Yeah.
But you have to be a prolific.
That's what I was saying.
And
It's
you
like,
have to be an athlete that wins a gold in a very popular event.
I would even say like if you're doing jousting or something, maybe the bag is a little bit different. But it's all marketing, like even me and Andre were talking before about like the advancements in technology I was watching a video on the Apple headset, and like where the technology might be going. And then Andre's like, this technology's been around for years. You know what I mean? But
It's usually military first.
yeah. So it's like all based off of the packaging. I think it's very similar with like Olympic athletes. Like I've seen bronze, silver athletes, but they do so well with that one performance or that one time where they went to the games to then as a platform to then catapult themselves to doing other things, So it's all
It is
about,
a package. It's the personality.
Yes. 100%.
Unfortunately, it's the story that's behind the person.
Yeah, man.
I mean, not unfortunately, because that's, I don't know.
But it just is what it is. But the media takes that, you know, they'll be like, oh my God, tell us more about how hard your life was or how hard your upbringing was. And sometimes if you don't have that, you might find that it's like, okay, well there's a bunch of other people with that sort of thing. So they want to highlight something. And
that's unique.
That's why it's important to think critically when it comes to like why something is being pushed. You know, talk about like with food a lot. You know what I mean? Like, why is this priced so cheaply? If it's at this price point, there might be a reason why. You know, and what do I value what I put in my body or put on my body? You know, we just talked about the lotion like not too long ago. You know,
yeah, you just gotta watch out for those parabens.
Yeah, but like it's the mode of thinking. You know, when you actually value what it is that you're doing, and then how that like overflows into other aspects of your life. You know?
There are some apps that you can scan a barcode of a product and it will give you a rating as to how healthy it is or unhealthy it is for you.
Really?
Yeah. Like all household products.
That seems like, I don't know what algorithm they have for that, but that must take so much
It's just
time.
like MyFitnessPal or whatever. You know, scanning the barcode to see what the macros are in the food item. Yeah. It's just this kind of the same thing. They've built a database, right?
I just think it's difficult to establish healthy. Like healthy as a term is more like, cause like someone who is malnourished, you know, is a cupcake something like at that point, at that level of malnutrition, anything that could be put into them is going to be beneficial to them. If they continue to do that long term, that might have negative repercussions. But it's like, I think it's important when we're thinking about like healthy individuals to always apply context. I'm just curious how they would do that with the app. I'm sure the app is great, but I'm just like, how do you determine healthy and non-healthy?
It's not food items. It's household items like cleaning agents, stuff you put on your skin.
That makes more sense.
You know, hygiene items.
Yeah, because if it's got chemicals on it, it's pretty easy. Yeah, no matter no context, no context needed. You know, you don't want this on you.
That's an interesting thing about the food space is they try to label things as good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, there are some things that, you know, if you're having a bunch of processed food, you know, you're probably not going to be living, you know, the highest quality of life that you can achieve is compared to if you were to do whole food diet, right? But at the same time, if you have that, are you going to wither away? That's why, like, depending on your goals, the smart goals and stuff like that, I think is very important. Otherwise, you get eating disorders and a bunch of other different things that.
Just go on social media and check out go on YouTube, check out these podcasts you have like the carnivore doctor and then you have like the vegan doctor. I
thought you were going to say us. Just go on. There's these two guys, handsome guys, you know, they drink tea and they talk about health. I can't remember the name right now. I'll link it.
I'm drinking some tea right now, but you know I'm a coffee guy.
I know. But I love me some tea.
But what I was saying is when you listen to the vegan guy talk, you know, they cherry pick these studies and they're very like biased towards the vegan diet and animal products are horrible for you.
It's important to realize where these guys' butter is lied or whatever that term is.
Yeah, but then you listen to the carnivore guy, then he's saying a whole bunch of, he's making statements that go against, completely contradict what the vegan guy says, and it's really difficult to know really what you should be eating or how you should be eating.
100%.
And, you know, I think not everything, but most things in moderation can be okay.
It's a good rule.
If you're not focusing on optimizing or like, you know, optimizing performance and quality of life.
I think it all comes back down to that episode 1. I'm like really proud of, where it's like you're thinking about the corridor, right? So like the more things that you can add in whole foods, you start moving. Okay, your diet improves. Okay, now let's get some movement in there. Okay, your movement improves. Your mental cognition and aware comes, and then you just widen. If you're confused about what I'm talking about, check episode 1, The Secret Sauce.
Secret sauce.
Yeah. But speaking of bringing it back, all right, I wanted to today go over some quick fire over and underrated things in the fitness industry.
Let's do it.
All right, so we got these cute little paddles for the people that are on the audio only journey. You can check us out on YouTube at Beyond Reps and Sets. Funny story about this, I put together yes and no forgetting that it was over and under, so we had to do a quick little audible, but luckily Adam is also an artiste. You got this very nice
I do not profess myself to be an artist. Okay, guys?
It's honestly, well, compared to me, because when it comes to the artistry thing, you know, even it's not there. You
Okay.
know? So the way that this is gonna work, folks, is we are going to go over some topics in the fitness industry, and real quick, we're just gonna give our whether it's overrated or underrated. We're gonna see where the discussion goes, and then you guys can follow along on YouTube or sitting wherever you're listening to this. Okay. All right, ready?
So you want to do the first three, and then I'll do the...
Well, I think we could just do it at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, because we both got the over-under. So we'll flip it to the camera and then go. So number one, we have visible abs. On the count of three, we flip it over, and then we discuss.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overrated.
Yeah. It's overrated in the sense that I think the general population puts a lot of puts a lot of thought into it, which causes unnecessary stress.
A lot of emphasis.
Yeah. When in reality, and especially I think you can also consider your age and stuff in there. We all want to look the best, but if we're thinking long term, it's much more important our quality of life. So, you know, are we able to move without pain? Are we able to be there for our grandkids? Are we able to still be sharp? You know what I mean? No one wants to be, you know, over the hill at like 50 and starting to see a significant decline, you know?
The average person who doesn't have a lot of strength in their abs or musculature in the midsection probably won't have visible abs at even like a lower body fat percentage. However, if you are a pretty strong person and you worked your abs, so you train them, you can have visible abs at an acceptable body fat percentage. Mm-hmm. So I could go the other way and say that I think generally it is overrated just because there is so much emphasis placed on it. Mm. But I think it can be healthy to have a lower body fat percentage. You may not see your abs if you don't have developed midsection. Mm-hmm. Okay, so like someone who could be at the 12% body fat, maybe even up to 15%, if they've got very strong abdominal muscles that are hypertrophied, you will be able to visualize it. You just won't see veins and all of
all the
unnecessary stuff.
All the stuff you might see on social media or on like a bodybuilding stage.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Love that. Okay. Number 2, we got lifting twice your body weight. Okay. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Ooh. Okay.
Underrated.
So
in my opinion,
immediately my head goes to depending what your goals are. So if your goals are just to get stronger in the gym and your pursuit is that, I think that will naturally occur if that's your pursuit. You know what I mean? So you will eventually get to twice your body weight. But if that is the main thing that you're looking to train for, we know that how you're moving is much more important than the weight that's on the bar.
So So more quantity of movement is what you're saying?
Quality, for sure.
Quality and quantity.
So if you're just a beginner, especially if you're a beginner, and your goal is like most guys, their goal is to bench 2 plates, right? Or let's say for the example of being able to squat twice your body weight. Focus on improving the skill of squatting every single time you're in the gym. Focus on, okay, where is my foot position best for me? Okay, what is the best squat position? You know, let's go to deadlift. Do I operate better in a sumo style as opposed to maybe a more conventional style? Looking at those variables, I think, will be much more critical, and you'll find yourself 3 months or 6 months, depending on how fast you develop, maybe a year, in that same place, maybe even doing more than twice your body weight, you know? So I think if you're younger, it may be harder to hear that, because I remember being that age and like wanting just to like focus on the numbers. But I think if the pursuit is I'm just getting better at the skill, it's a much healthier way to look at lifting from a sustainable standpoint.
So I would agree with you 100%. So maybe it's it would be a different argument that we're thinking about.
That's why this is so good.
Yeah. So when you look at our society, I think we're just very, very weak compared to our predecessors, right? And when you talk to certain people that are actually dealing with the geriatric population, a big part of why people have a poor quality of life has to do with a lack of strength. And actually, here's a stat. I think we mentioned this in episode 1, but your grip strength is the one measure of all-cause mortality. So if you have a higher grip strength, your risk of dying of anything decreases substantially.
Yeah.
And when I say twice your body weight, I'm not saying, okay, let's say you're 200 pounds, you can squat 400 pounds. I'm saying you should be able to squat 200 pounds. Because it's your body weight plus the 200 pounds.
Oh, see,
right?
I was thinking the 400.
Yeah, that's really kind of unnecessary.
I think it's also like, if that's your pursuit, cool, and whatever gets you in the gym, so to speak. But in the long terms, I think me and you both been in the gym over a decade. You know what I mean? Looking back on it, as like, oh, I would have got there anyways if I had just focused on getting stronger and moving better.
Right.
You know?
At the end of the day, you can develop and grow your muscles without using that much resistance, but you have to stress your body enough to create that adaptation. Yeah. Right. So that's why this exercise is interesting, because you can look at it from 2 different lenses. Yeah. Right.
I think. And the power lifters that are watching this right now, you guys are excused. You guys are beasts in your own right. You guys, if that's your pursuit, that's what I'm saying, like, go for it, you know? But I think Gen Pop, usually what we're talking about, most people just trying to live a little bit healthier, lose the belly fat, just focus on moving better, man.
I think there still should be a pursuit of, if you're 150 pounds, try to get your squat up to 150. Yeah, because you will benefit health-wise and functionality-wise. Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's good. Okay. I like the 3 seconds in between too, because it really makes you have to think. Okay. Lifting with straps. 3, 2, 1. Overrated. Oh, awesome. Okay, you go first. I've been starting this off. Why overrated?
I think it's overrated because I see a lot of people doing it. I see a lot of people using straps, gloves, wrist ties, compression sleeves, belts.
Yeah, they're watching too much social media.
I think some people just like all the gear, and they might maybe like how it looks, I guess.
It's like the guy who goes to pick up with like the arm sleeve, the headband, and he's like trash on the court, and you're like, you could have probably done without, maybe do a couple more practices, you know? Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be wearing the Jordans. You know?
Yeah, there's definitely there's no scuffs on it either. That's a bad sign. If you're on the court, you want to see some beat up kicks.
Yeah. So okay. So what's your opinion? Do you want me to finish my thought first?
Finish.
Okay.
I thought, yeah.
If you have to wear wrist straps, then and your grip strength can't handle it, then maybe you're missing the boat on something. Maybe you need to drop your resistance down and
Maybe
develop
some
some strength in your hand. What did I just say, right? Your grip strength is the measure of all-cause mortality. So, okay, let's say you put on some wrist straps and you can, do 100-pound bent over row or something, right? But you take those wrist straps off and all of a sudden you can only do 40.
Big drop.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. Here's why I say underrated. Because I'm thinking from my lens and people in the pursuit of hypertrophy. Because I'm always thinking, okay, growth, muscle growth. How do I grow this certain area? And when you're in the name of muscle growth, you need to either increase your volume or increase your intensity or increase load, right? And I've done a lot to make sure, and even when I think about with my clients, I know that their form is going to be on point. So I'm more thinking about what are the little triggers that I can manipulate to emphasize a stretched position and underneath load. So if the limiting factor for them is maybe wrist strength, but I know that we've gotten plenty of other compensation through that in other movements, it's like, okay, I'm going to have a period where we're going maybe lower rep ranges, and it's still in the sense of phasing in and out. So we might, and then lighter phases where we're getting the actual benefit of holding the weight. But I think a lot of people go shy of where they maybe could without using straps because they're like, oh, it's too heavy. The gym is a tool, and we forget that. We're not picking up rocks in caves anymore. So from we're in a gym, the tools that are given, and this is all with the caveat that you've done the time to actually learn these things properly. I think that's a major thing.
Would that then be, are we looking at the population of the gen pop gym goers, or are we looking now at the bodybuilders or the ones that are trying to be in competition? Because that's a totally different thing. And in that population, I would say maybe it isn't underrated, or maybe it's not even overrated.
Properly rated.
It's properly rated.
It's right where it needs to be.
Exactly, right?
Okay.
Because if you're a bodybuilder and you're doing a forearm, you're doing your arms one day, let's say, right? And you really do a high volume work on your forearms. Yeah. Then you got to do back the next day. It makes sense to wear the straps.
100%. And that's where training split knowledge. I think that's a caveat that we all understand is overarching. But yeah, that was kind of where my head immediately went to. But I do think
I'm thinking about our audience, and I'm thinking about the average person that just wants to look better, feel better, perform better. Yeah. Right? Not the person who is trying to achieve an IFBB pro card. In that case, the discussion would be totally different. Yeah. And I'd probably agree with you, or also disagree because maybe it's properly rated.
Yeah. Okay. Love that. Flying through it. Okay. This one is near and dear to my heart, especially circa 2018. Supersets. Overrated, underrated. 3, 2, 1.
I knew we were going to disagree.
You know why? Because it was such a thing. I was like, I have too much time on my hands. I need to be doing something else right now. And I would be looking at different things to show that I used to think you had to be sweating for a good workout. So supersets were so good at getting that. Come to find out, that was the very same thing. The intensity of my workouts was killing my gains because I wasn't sleeping enough. I was doing all these superset movements, wasn't getting stronger, wasn't giving my muscles enough time to actually recover. So then, and then my joints suffered and all this sort of stuff. So it's like, for me, I know what the supersets did to me. I should have just been doing a separate cardio day if I needed that sort of release. or phase in and out. Like I was just doing a year, 2 years of just everything.
I think supersets doesn't mean that your intensity is high though, right?
Yeah, that's probably a me problem. I could have probably dialed it down a little bit.
If you're trying to do supersets to do cardio, that's different.
I think most people think of it that way though.
Yeah.
Because they use the thing of if I'm not sweating, if I'm not out of breath, or they're using these other sort of metrics to say, oh, that's what my workouts are.
Right.
You know?
Well, you can control if your cardio is good, you can control your intensity, and you can even do two different. So when I do supersets, I usually like to do 2 different body parts, right? So really you're fatiguing one body part, but then you're going into the next. But if your conditioning is good, then your heart rate's not going to be that high, right? So going into the next exercise is not going to be that difficult, and you can fatigue both muscles properly, and then you can take a 2-minute rest and then do it again, right? And what it does is it saves time.
I was just about to say, the way you were supersetting was way more efficient because while one muscle was working, another one was resting.
Exactly.
So it's really utilizing, that is the way to use supersets. But for people that are maybe falling into that same thing of like, I'm going to do 2 different tricep exercises back to back to fatigue them or something, I would just caution you, if you find that your recovery is slowing down or you find that your joints are a little bit achier in between and you notice that you got like 10 different supersets across 3 different days that you're in the gym, maybe look at some other things or implement what Adam just said, antagonist and agonist muscles.
I think you guys need to know what a superset is first off, because if you haven't seen our previous episode where we talked about it, a superset is doing back-to-back exercises without rest.
Yeah.
Or very, very, very minimal rest. So an example would be doing a bent over row with an overhead press. Okay, so you're doing, and that would be 2 compound movements, which makes it more intense. But if you're supersetting a compound movement that uses multiple joints, like a bent over row with a lateral raise, that's an isolation movement, that makes it even easier to recover and brings the intensity down, but you're still being very time efficient with your workout.
Also, another great way to look at the superset is whatever muscle is working in the front, you work the opposite. So if you're looking at your quads, you work the hamstrings and that superset. So while one muscle is working, the other one is resting.
What's even nicer is if you're doing a full body workout, you do a lower body and then an upper body exercise, which there's so many ways to slice it, right?
But the thing is, don't do what I was doing, okay? And if you are, do it in phases.
But hey, Arnold, okay? And a lot of these bodybuilders, classic bodybuilders, even bodybuilders today will use different ways of training, supersets, trisets, giant sets, pyramid sets. And the whole point of it is fatiguing the muscle until there's no more glycogen left, right? And then taking a quick rest and then going again. So
partials is a big thing in the industry
right
now. So you're maybe not able to take it through full ROM, and when you reach that wall or you don't have any reps left, you're doing like half reps.
Exactly.
Okay, we got 2 more real quick. I love this. How you feeling, Adam?
Feeling great.
Awesome. All right. Intermittent fasting. Okay, we move into the diet side. Okay, overrated, underrated. 1, 2, 3. I went middle.
Oh, so
I'm down the middle here. I think it's properly rated. I think it is a good tool because it works the psyche a little bit more, and I think a lot of people with their diet, we talked about and discussed before, there is such a mental aspect to food. So if like I've heard the term, another trainer, a good friend of mine, who says, if the sun's down, then you shouldn't be eating, or you should have your last meal. And if that's something, that time window works for you, it's all just affecting thermodynamics.
Can you define intermittent fasting?
Intermittent fasting is just a window in which you're having your meals throughout the day. So a common one that I hear is you won't eat until 12 to 8. That's your window where you're having your food.
So there's semantics there, right? Because that 16 and 8, right? So 16 hours of not eating, of fasting, and then 8 hours of feeding, right? It's an 8-hour window. That was because there was a popular study that was done that utilized that method. But technically that's what we call time restricted eating. So you're just not eating for a certain amount of time, but then you're eating all your calories during a specific amount of time.
Yeah.
The reason why I say it's overrated is because most people do it and they don't. If anyone tells you that they're doing intermittent fasting for the right reasons, like because they have issues with their gut, or they have issues with a relationship with food, or they want more mental clarity, right? If anyone tells you that they're doing it for that, usually 9 times out of 10, they're just telling lies. Okay, most people are. Most people are doing it.
I thought you were going the other way with that.
No, most people are doing it because they are trying to lose fat.
100%.
Right?
Right.
For aesthetic reasons. And it's easier than deciding what to eat.
Yeah.
They just know, okay, I'm just not going to eat for this period of time.
Yeah. But that's why I think it's properly rated, because not everybody wants to go as in depth with their fitness and learning about, or wants to track their calories. That brings a level of anxiety and all this sort of stuff. And to be honest, the goal is just to get people to be in a healthier place with their food. And if one of those things is going through a phase of time restricted eating to help bring you into a window where you can eat certain types of foods. Now, if you're doing that and then still having crap, then there's a different problem. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of problems, right? Because what if you have a really bad relationship with food, and you have potentially some mental issues around it, right?
Which we know for a fact,
right?
That,
so what
depression leading to,
or even like binge eating, or anorexia.
I was about to say the opposite.
Exactly.
That could play into it, 100%.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of ways it can go left or it can go wrong, per se, in the sense of it probably isn't the thing for you. In my experience, for the people that have had success with it, I would say if it's something you're doing to help get into a better regimen, better relationship with food, I think it can be a useful tool.
I think it can be a useful tool, but I think true intermittent fasting is not time restricted eating. True intermittent fasting is like at least a 24 to 48 hour fast. And if you're doing that on the regular, there are issues around that, especially for the lay population.
Go into that a little bit more.
Okay, so
'cause I don't think a lot of people know that.
If you go 24 hours to 48 hours without eating once a week, okay, there's potential for catabolism. So breaking down muscle tissue, potentially bone tissue, especially if the person doesn't focus on their macros and strength training. Even if you are focusing on eating enough protein on the days you are eating, and then also strength training, if you look at it over the course of 3-4 years, you will probably lose more muscle tissue than you actually want. And who's an example? Peter Attia, right? Very famous on social media, a longevity doctor, has a longevity clinic. He did fasting for years, and he says that he stopped because he'll never do it again because of the amount of muscle he lost over the course of 5 to 10 years of doing it. So he'll do like, I think he did like 2 or 3 days every month, like a 3-day fast once a month or like once every couple months. And based on the data and kind of his physiology, it's something that he doesn't promote or something he wouldn't do for himself. Now, it's great if you have an addiction to sugar or if you're eating a lot. And okay, an example would be you have an addiction to sugar and you fast for like 2 days, even 3 days. Okay, so water fast. When you pick up an apple on that 4th day and you eat that, it's going to taste sweet. But prior to that, that apple would not taste sweet to you.
Because your palate has been desensitized.
Exactly. So changing that type of relationship with food it's effective and it's useful. Or giving your gut a rest, right?
So it's almost as if you're saying it's not the tool, but how it's being used.
Yes. So intermittent fasting, or time restricted eating
has its place.
Has its place, and actually some people can thrive doing it. Time restricted, so not going a full 24 hours, but going 16 hours, 18 hours. The trouble is you end up, your metabolism shifts down into a very efficient mode. So now your maintenance calories are going to be very low because it's hard to take in, 2,500 to 3,000 calories of good whole foods within an 8-hour window.
I think you're thinking from the perspective of people that have made that switch. We all know that people coming from a poor diet, they're not going to be able to go from maybe like 3 cans of soda to water. There might be a Diet Coke situation in between there. There might be a reduction of going from 3 sodas to 1. And I think like you're saying, this, if used in that way, that's why hopefully you have a coach that's talking you through that. Or if you're doing it by yourself, you're looking into it and using it as a phase of to eventually get off of it. No, nothing forever, I think we can say, is going to be the end all be all, because your health is ever changing.
Sure. However, 12 hours now.
Yeah.
I think that's the sweet spot.
So would you say that's time restricted then?
That's still time restricted technically, but you the comment you made where when the sun's going down, you should stop eating. And then when the sun comes up, give it some time and then have your breakfast. That's 12 hours, right? So I think that's normal. And it takes 12 hours on average for your body to digest food. So the energy that you're using in the gym in the morning comes from food that you had the day before, right? So I think that's where it's just an issue of semantics and people overanalyzing the situation, and everybody's different. Some people can thrive on the intermittent fasting or the time restricted eating, whereas others, if your goal is to build muscle, it's going to be a lot harder.
Depending if I think if your body composition is already overweight versus underweight. If you're underweight and you're intermittent, I don't even know why you would do that. But like, let's say,
that's a good point.
That's what I'm saying.
How many people that are overweight want to build muscle? And that's where they should be.
Honestly, right? Save that, because that is another.
Oh, did you leave?
Yes. That is a.
We'll talk. I think there's a question later.
Yeah.
Where we touch on that.
Okay, love that. Okay, just one more. I believe I'm having fun with this.
Yeah,
okay,
this is good.
Let us know if you like this one compared to the blind rankings.
I think I like it more.
Yeah, nice and quick too. Last one. 3 seconds to decide. Training to failure. Overrated or underrated? 1, 2, 3.
Oh. So
I don't
you're
know.
not taking a stance?
Okay.
I feel like it's not.
You know what? Okay. Underrated. And here's why. No, you go. You give me yours.
I say it's overrated because most people aren't training to failure, even though they think they are.
That's why I said underrated, because I don't think people are training to failure. So I was like, training to failure, underrated because more people need to implement it. Or they're not actually in that window.
No, but I think a lot of people are getting good results thinking they're training to failure, but they're not actually training to failure.
Because training to failure sucks. If you've ever hit that wall in a gym or anything, like I wouldn't advise people to do that uncoached or.
Remember the first workout we had together?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I trained my quads to failure.
Yeah.
And I couldn't lift my
It's
kids up the
debilitating.
stairs.
Guys, especially on a leg day, if you're training to failure every week, okay, there's no sort of thing that you're using to help with your recovery. Like you're just a regular person going full-time job, you know. This is things you have to consider. So there are significant benefits for training to failure, but the week in, week out, that's why I say
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends on how much.
And where your training age is at. So let's say beginner, I think
completely. Oh, it's not going to happen. First of all, as a beginner, you're going to think you're training to failure. So maybe,
especially where your cardio is at too.
So maybe they should be trying to train to failure.
Yes,
because they won't.
I switch. No, actually, no. I have it underrated.
No, you have it right. Maybe.
Yeah.
For the beginner, you have it right.
Yeah, and then more experienced lifters, it's like, hey man, let's focus on our sleep. Let's focus on those other things, and then you already have the training age, you already have the knowledge.
Okay, listen. Okay, a true power lifter.
Yes.
Is like let's say like a pro power lifter knows how to train to failure.
Yes.
And you know what happens when they train to failure?
Talk to me.
They're not training for the next week.
Yeah.
A whole week they have to take off.
Even didn't like Mark Bell, when he hit that 1,000-pound squat, didn't he was like out for, because he attempted, so he did like I think 1,026, squatted it, did it successfully, and then he went back just to show you the mentality, like that, you know, some people have, like all freaking big ups to this guy, but then he went back to the 1,086, which is like 40 pounds
Crazy.
more, after putting his literal whole life, soul, and ligaments and
60
muscles
pounds
into
more.
60 pounds. 60 pounds. All right, I'm glad you're here, Adam. What would I do without you? And then he failed the lift, and I think he got injured. But like even that, you know, like anything where you're pushing and challenging the limits of the body, you're gonna need time to recover.
You need time.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's take a quick break.
Yes.
I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back. Today, well, right now, actually, we've got some questions. I guess we can't call them frequently asked questions because these are pretty personalized questions.
Yeah.
That are coming from subreddit.
But the main thing is that these are real people with real issues, people that have made the decision to improve their life, and those are the type of people that will do the best with some help.
And hopefully, you listeners and viewers can relate to some of these questions, and we'll try to answer them with as much nuance as possible, just so that we can give you the most value. Mm-hmm. Okay, so question 1. Why am I hungrier from weightlifting than when I was doing cardio? I just started weightlifting for pretty much the first time in my life at 25. Before that, I really only ran and biked. From my understanding, weightlifting doesn't burn many calories, at least not compared to cardio. But I find myself always hungry, way worse than when I was doing a lot of cardio. Why is that? Does weightlifting increase metabolism more than cardio does? What are your thoughts, Cliff?
Great question. Is this a male or a female? I don't see a distinction.
Let's go to the Reddit.
Yeah. Just because I think that will...
So the name is Trouser Tutor.
So I guess we can do for both.
I think the answer might be the same.
Yeah.
For both.
Especially given the age.
Yeah.
So this person is essentially asking, does weightlifting increase metabolism more than cardio? And I would say the main factor that affects metabolism, I would say would be more so weightlifting, because the more muscle you have, the more calories you're gonna burn at rest. And cardio is only going to be working adversarially to building muscle.
Yeah, I would say so.
Where do you stand with that? Agree, disagree?
Okay, so I would agree. Weightlifting does not burn as many calories in the actual act, unless you're training for like 2 hours and you're going at a high intensity. But
those
remember,
supersets we talked about earlier.
right? But remember, cardio also, you could become very efficient, right? So if you're let's say you're running, okay, your body always wants to become more efficient. So your body will get more used to performing the act, running at the cadence and the intensity. Over time, that adaptation occurs.
It's a more aerobic adaptation.
Right. And most people, when they bike or run, there's a point in time where your body hits steady state. Steady state is like, okay, so anyone who's ever done any cardio, you start off and you start to get winded, right? After a certain point in time, you start to feel tired, but then it's like you catch your second wind all of a sudden. That's when you're getting into what we call steady state.
You've reached the first barrier.
Right. And then your body gets used to being in that state. So you're
gets
going
used to that lactic threshold that's built up, and you're no longer even aware of that.
Well, you get to a lactic threshold, but then your body kicks into a different energy system, which utilizes oxygen. Either that, or so you actually bring your intensity down slightly. And when you get to that point, you're not really, you're kind of efficient. You're not really using what we call glycogen, your glycogen stores as much, right? At that point, you're kind of in that fat burning mode, right?
So that's why there was a lot of bodybuilders who use steady state cardio or low intensity style cardio, because they could save a lot of the repercussions that would happen, say, at a more intense rate, with like their joints
or muscle loss,
which we know for bodybuilding is literally the worst thing you can do, because your whole sport is about being on stage as full as possible with as much muscle as you can. So you see that same sort of steady state because it was so emphasized on just that fat burning.
I don't think someone who's doing like 30, 40 minutes of cardio is going to utilize a lot of their glucose stores in their muscles. Not the same as when you're working at an intensity of, like 2-3 repetitions left in reserve, like a set of 10 reps. And then you do like 4 or 5 sets of that, you're really going to deplete glycogen stores. So in that case, what happens is you would get hungrier, but also the adaptation that you're calling for is muscle growth. So if you're asking your body and you're telling your body to get stronger, it means your muscle tissues need to there needs to be better quality muscle, for one. Aside from like the neuromuscular adaptations that happen first, which is basically just your body's ability to contract muscles and the timing of the contraction and the activation of the muscles. That always comes first before hypertrophy, so the increase of muscle size and muscle fibers. But what happens is once your muscle tissue increases, you're going to have more mitochondria. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Welcome back to grade 12 biology.
So when that happens, obviously, not obvious. Okay, this is not obvious. I'm not going to answer that way, but you're going to...
you silly, obvious. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm not. It's not obvious, actually.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. You're just gonna get hungrier,
Yeah.
naturally, right? Because you've probably adapted and you're doing the same amount of cardio and the same intensity, so your body's used to that. And then you switch to something novel, something new. Now your body is asking for more nutrients. You know, you might. We haven't even talked about the nutrition. You didn't ask about nutrition.
I was just about to say, what are we measuring metabolism off of? Are you just saying that you're noticing you're able to eat more and stay at the same, relatively same body weight? Are you noticing that you have more cravings, or that the same amount of foods wasn't able to satiate you to the same level? Because that will also play into, like you're saying, this new novel stimulus coming into the fray. It could just be that this is something you're introducing now that is having a beginner gains effect, especially if it's something that you weren't really focusing on. Let's say you had poor cardio going into this and you're only strength training and never really focused, and this is the first time in your life you're focusing on cardio. You're going to see big increases. You see a lot of people, for example, who do group classes and stuff like that. They experience this big boom of like losing an initial sense of weight, but the body adapts pretty quickly. You might even see maybe after first 2-3 weeks that start to taper off. And to Adam's point, the way to sustain that, if you want to reconfigure your metabolism, strength training consistently with some moderate cardio is a better way. So to answer the question, I would more so lean to cardio. Like any form of training can be a way, like a new stimulus. It's always good to shake up your training. But I would say if you really want to sustain and change your metabolism over a longer period of time, strength training would be a better workout tool or training tool.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're let's say you're a bodybuilder that never did cardio, and then you start to do, some running or start to incorporate some cardio, initially, you're right, you probably get an increase in energy usage, but eventually your body adapts to anything that you're doing.
And that's why it's very important to phase in and out of different training cycles, because if you're doing something and your body adapts, you're going to have to do more of that thing to get another adaptation. And if you keep pushing that scale, in order to get to a new level, you might have to be doing something, and then that's when injuries come into the fray. The load will catch up to you, and that's where hopefully tips like this, or maybe hopefully you're working with somebody to kind of coach you through that, or at least just help guide you.
If this is you listening, eat. I would say if you feel hungry, just eat. Like, eat more. Choose healthy things, bump your protein up. Don't be afraid of eating carbs, right? Fuel your workouts. You shouldn't be feeling so hungry. I think it's normal to feel hungry, but if you feel that itch of hunger, scratch it and eat.
100%, especially if you've already gone through a phase of training where you've cut calories. You know what I mean? So
this person, remember, they did only cardio before this. So my assumption
is that they cut.
My assumption is that they didn't have much muscle, and now their body's calling on more muscle tissue,
and there's no fuel to repair and build.
Exactly. So if you're this person, just eat.
Okay. Let's go to number 2. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. All right. I'm liking the look of number 2. Or did you have one you want to get to? I can read it out.
You can read that one.
Okay. All right. This person was fairly new to weightlifting, free weights. Can someone tell me if it's normal that almost every upper body exercise I do feels like I'm working my lower back more than the targeted muscle group? Is this normal to start till my lower back gets stronger, or am I doing something wrong?
Wow, you're doing something horribly wrong. No, I'm just kidding. First of all, hats off. I think you're doing your body some justice by
Awesome.
by lifting, right?
They're using the secret sauce.
Exactly. Yeah. All this is, I think, your body, your brain is telling you something. Your brain is telling you that something is off. Something needs to be corrected, right? Anytime you feel pain, it's a communication from your subconscious to your conscious. It's a way of protecting that. Exactly. It's a request for change. Okay. So you're probably not used to, you're obviously not used to training because you're new to lifting free weights. Free weights require a whole lot of stability.
Stabilizers are on go.
Yes.
Same thing I would say with barbell exercises. Anything outside of a machine or piece of gym equipment, you're going to be forced to call on a lot of auxiliary muscle groups. So not even just the one you're targeting, but accessories. So like, let's say, for instance, you're doing a dumbbell chest press, right? Not only are you going to be, let me use a squat. You're doing a goblet squat. Not only are you going to be asking for your body to do extension to get your quads going, to get you out from the bottom of that squat, but you're also going to be calling on your core to brace. You're also going to be calling on your upper body to hold the weight actually inside of your hand, you know, as you're going through that entire range of motion. So you have the lower body, but if there isn't, and then also, where's your center of gravity? Are you leaning too far? What's your range of motion look like? Partial reps, is most of your emphasis on the front? Do you have weaknesses in and around your glutes, hamstrings, so you have the inability to get into that low position, so you're feeling it in a low back? For this person, if you're having a tendency of feeling a muscle that's not being targeted or a muscle that you're not focusing to engage while working another muscle group, that is a sign that either your technique needs to be seriously looked at. I think that's even without question. We can always improve our technique, especially we all different shapes and length and sizes. And also, how are you engaging? You know, so if you're, say, doing a lat pull down, right, without bracing your core or setting yourself firm into that actual seat, you might not actually be engaging the lat at all. You know what I mean? You might be that's why your arms fatigue before your back, right?
Yeah. So I would say if you are feeling back pain and you're new to lifting free weights or any type of resistance training, there's a high probability that you're lacking stability. When you lack stability, your brain senses that and it wants to mitigate risk. So what does it do? It sends a pain signal.
Yeah.
And that pain signal stops you. It does one of two things or both. Send a pain signal or decrease the force production of the muscles for that specific movement. So if you look at somebody who is like a high-level power lifter, when they put a belt on, the belt creates stability, a sense of stability, which then allows the brain to take the training wheels off, or
it's almost like a release.
It's a regulator, like there's a governor, right?
And he's giving you full access.
It's giving you more access to the actual force production, right? So that's the same thing. If you're a new weightlifter, and let's say you're doing an overhead press where you're pushing the dumbbells over your head, and you don't have the strength in the muscles around your spine to hug the joints nice and tight, then you're going to get pain in your back. So what do? Decrease the load, right? You can do a couple things. You can either decrease the load to a point where you don't feel the back pain, or you can sit down in a chair like what you just said and push your back into the seat so that it creates some stability. You can put a back brace on, which I don't really recommend because you want to try to improve your core activation. And then another option is use a machine, because the machines
are built
for that,
to put you in the most advantageous position.
Exactly.
And that's why you see a lot of older people working in the machines. This is where I would say educate yourself, because if you're in the machine, you're always going to be relying on the machine. So if you are young enough, let's say you start training at around like 16 and as far up as you can go, like you want to be trying to the goal is to get to those free weights. So once you feel the muscle that you're targeting more so than whatever the area where you're experiencing that chronic pain, that's a sign where you can go to that lighter load, brace into the piece of equipment, check out our content where we talk about this stuff, or a bunch of other good guys out there, so that you can feel strong. The best thing is the psyche. If you feel strong, feel good in a position, you're probably going to perform better, even if you don't have the best technique.
Yeah, you can use a combination of things too, right? Like within one workout, I wouldn't completely drop the free weights. I would just go lower on weight and practice technique and form. Think of it as a skill that you're trying to perfect.
Guys, that's something you're going to hear us preach a lot. Do not think of these movements as just unconscious, and not be super intentional with the purpose behind this movement. I am targeting my shoulders with this, and I'm doing this by staying in a seated position, which will stabilize me to get the weight up. Even something as basic as that gives you sort of a diagram to then feel stronger in the movement. If you feel stronger, you will perform better. And then the stabilizers.
I actually still do this. I do my free weights at the beginning of my workout, and then I move into some machine work because I really want to fatigue these muscles, and I also want to try to prevent injury. Before, I used to shy away from machines because I felt like it just locks you in this specific range of motion, and everybody is different biomechanically. But machines now are getting really good. Yeah. And I don't really have that criticism anymore.
We're far from the days of the ironclad gyms. There's just like clanging and banging, you know what I mean? These are some pretty technologically sound pieces of equipment that are really good. Like the leg presses have really gotten better. I've seen with like I saw it on Mike Isertel's in gym. I think he has like the pad is a little bit different, which allows for like a deeper stretch in that bottom position. So but for the person that we're speaking on, take any of those tips right there. Okay, I think we got time for one more.
No, I think we got time for some more.
Okay.
All right, I'll read this next one out.
All right.
Some of these might be quick answers too, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible to get into a relatively slim or maybe slightly muscular body shape without really changing my bad eating habits? I've been eating somewhat healthier lately with protein bars, beef jerky, crackers, and granola bars. But other than the occasional home-cooked meal, I do eat fast food a moderate amount. I don't really work out much at the moment, but I like to get into a routine to keep in my decent shape and get rid of my belly fat. But I'm not sure if working out will be enough.
Oh my goodness. I'm not laughing at this person.
No judgment.
Yeah. I'm not laughing at this person. I am just there are so many people that I think are in this. Did you feel that when you read this one?
That's why I chose it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people I feel like are in this sort of, I'm eating the protein bars, I'm eating the beef jerky. I watched the Alex Hormozy clip where it's like, this is a hack to get your protein in, you know. Just quick fire answer, I think we can both say working out is definitely enough, you know what I mean, to get you to reduce belly fat. I think it is, you know, I don't think we have to go into a justification. That's literally our whole thesis on this podcast. You know, if you want to know why, then go back to episode 1. But just briefly here, if you're finding that your workout alone isn't enough, I would ask why. I would ask, how much time are you training? What are the types of movements that you're doing in the gym? Then we go into the nutrition, of course, to see what your calories are, or if you're not in that space, food journal. And then also we get into the recovery. So I could probably say, based off of this, you're getting a lot of information from maybe influencers, maybe shorts and stuff like that. Maybe you're still in the infancy stages. At least it sounds like that. I apologize if that's not the case. But ask yourself those questions, and then either modulate your intensity from there. And I think even with this not so good, I would love for you to introduce some vegetables in there. He said he's eating better, and I didn't see one green leafy vegetable there. It's beef jerky crackers and granola bars. My days.
I think some nutrition education is important.
Yeah. Do you want to lay some foundation for them?
You know what? Don't change anything. Like you said, add 1 to 2 servings of vegetables.
Please.
Right? Don't change anything. Add 1 to 2 servings of vegetables. Potentially just count your protein. Make sure that you're getting enough protein. A lot of a lot of these things are not.
But he's gonna have to. There's no, or you could do supplements to get your micronutrients in there.
There is some truth when people say nutrition's 80% of it.
Yeah.
Right? Because as long as you know what your macros and calories are,
you will lose.
If you're thinking more so body composition, right? You can get to where you want by working out and eating
100%
fast food. This has been proven. Like, who's the guy on social media now who just counts macros?
Sam Sulek?
Yeah, Sam Sulek, right? Yeah. So that's an example.
I remember I brought up a clip where he was basically saying like all calories are equal, that we could maybe dive into a little bit later as to why it's not. But from a thermodynamic perspective of I'm having less than my maintenance, therefore I am losing weight. We can get into whether that's fat or muscle.
Now, my caveat there is like, you have to be getting enough fiber, right? Like, I don't know.
But then again, I think, not to interject there, I think it's still, he would lose it, but he would feel, it would maybe not feel the best.
That's what I'm saying. And, he's talking about belly fat. What is that from? Usually it's cortisol, right? Having a lot of the stress hormone and inflammation. But when you're eating a lot of junk food, you're going to have higher inflammation naturally. And your gut bacteria, your microbiota is not going to be great.
I just thought if he's skinny fat as well, like let's say he's not even that much overweight, you might need to make a more considered look into the diet because you either, or you're going to have to slash even further back with the questionably quality foods, so you might notice that maybe his workouts are suffering right now. We'd have to do a full, go through his history or whatever.
Let's say he was that guy who was 25 that just started working out.
The cardio
guy?
Right?
Yeah. Okay. And then all of a sudden he's so hungry, but this is his diet. And he's going to go 2 more times to McDonald's.
Yeah,
right?
He's probably going to be outside of his
he's going to get addicted.
Yeah.
Or it's just not satiating the food that he's eating.
Yeah.
So this is why I say the macros are going to be important.
And then what happens is, and this is why most people end up getting on and off their regimen, is because now they're falling into, they didn't address the quality of foods. So now when they are in this phase, the minute they stop that activity even remotely, the benefit is putting in the work. Because once you've done it and you've achieved a certain level of muscle, you can enjoy these meals and you won't see that repercussion. You can miss the gym for, I don't want to encourage this, but 2 weeks is not until, or is it week after a week you start seeing muscle degeneration?
I think everybody's different, but you take a month off, it takes you a week to get back. For every month that you take off, it takes you about a week of training consistently to get back to your previous level.
But if you got into great shape, like let's say 10 to 15% body fat, visible abs, even with a moderate diet, allowing for, dinners and things like this, once you've already achieved that, you might still be beach ready, or you might only need 30 days to get back beach ready for whatever vacay. So to bring it back, you can have the same foods, like Adam said, introduce some veggies into those, guys, please. And you might, and skin, health, things that, if you're a guy, gal them love hair, gal them like nice skin, you smell better. You know what I mean? When you sweat, you're not going to have all these fumes. These are things that are going to, no, unless you're already in a, and if you're in a relationship, even better. She want to feel good too, you know?
Either way, if you eat cleaner, it's going to be healthier. But if your goal is body composition,
you can get away with this.
As long as you make sure your calories aren't out of whack and your protein is up.
Yeah. Right? If you're intentional and these are the foods that you want to have, these are not the worst foods. I can definitely think of worse foods. Protein bars is, you know, good. You're getting protein. Beef jerky has a lot of protein. Also a lot of salt. Crackers, again, depending if they're salted. So these are good food items. Just might be a little bit more challenging to get to the next level if you want to do it.
I have one. Let's do one more.
Let's do one more.
Is it possible to lose strength while you're exercising more?
Is this the number 5 or number
6? I started exercising a 5-day split. I've upped my protein intake, but kept calories around the same. I've noticed that I'm getting fatter, but also losing strength, even though I'm working out more consistently. I'm in a riddle me this, I suppose. So then he, so what are your thoughts on that? Because it is a little bit of a riddle.
It is.
Most people would read that and be like, wow, that doesn't make sense.
So let's go over the facts with everybody. So he started exercising 5-day split. So he's in the gym consistently. He's upped his protein intake and kept his calories around the same. And then he notices that he's getting fatter and losing strength. So I would probably say either he's calculating, like, what is your measure of how much calories? Because maybe you're not actually, maybe you're way over. We've had conversations when we were doing our thing of what modality are you using to track your calories is very important. And what's your knowledge base around that? Because then you might be significantly overestimating or underestimating that. So that's one thing. And then if he's getting fatter, then I would probably lean towards the fact that he is over his maintenance and might not be realizing.
Okay, but here's the thing: he's getting weaker.
So that's where the I would challenge the amount of protein and what kinds of proteins having, because the type of protein you have might also be, like, depending on the cut of meat that you have, might have more fat along with it, right? And if he's already miscalculated or overestimated his maintenance, something like that, extra 200, 300 calories 3 times throughout a meal might be something that puts you over the edge.
Okay, so let's break it down here quick. Losing strength.
That's huge.
Exercising more. 5-day split.
Well, we don't know how much he was training before.
Okay, exercising more, he said.
Yeah.
5-day split. Okay. He's getting fatter and he's losing strength. Okay, so this tells me a couple things. One, he's overtrained. Okay. When your calories are the same, let's say his calories are kept the same, they're actually accurate. He's probably not fueling adequate, even though his protein is up.
So would you say that's an absorption? Like he's not absorbing and going and utilizing those calories efficiently? Or are you, what are you saying there?
Like he's not, he needs his calories to go up, is what I'm saying. So he's in a state now where he's overtrained, probably stressed at work, not sleeping properly. His cortisol levels are up. If you're not recovering properly, you're not going to see the gains you want. He's getting weaker. Remember, he's not building muscle. Regardless of how much protein and how much you're working out, if your recovery is not good,
you're not going to be building.
You're not going to be building.
Yeah.
So what if he's very stressed at work? He's working 12-hour days. Plus he's working out and he's upped his intensity and his volume, and he's not sleeping properly.
I think that's
not feeding.
I think the character that you're creating, that's a lot of assumptions there. We're assuming he's at a stage in his life, like he could also.
But this is common though, is what I'm saying. This is very common.
It is common, but he hasn't stated any of that. So we would have to figure out whether or not he was in those sort of environments to potentially, like, those are places we could question and ask.
But this would be you assuming that everything he says is wrong. So his calories aren't tracked properly, his protein is not right. Like that would be your assumption then, right?
I would, because of the things that are taking place. So I'm taking the information from the question and then assuming reality or what might be taking place based off of that. You know, we don't know how much hours he's working. He could be doing that, but I think it's a bigger leap, just in my head, to take that all of those things are very common things that play into it. And I would say for sure the recovery. But he could be a kid that's in high school, doesn't have a job, living with his parents.
Okay, you know what? Let's go to the Reddit for a second and let's see if there were other questions.
No, I think we just go through both.
No, what I'm saying is see if there are, like, if they asked if there are follow-up answers to give more information.
Yeah. But let's just go based off of that. I think those are good questions that he can ask himself to see whether or not those are, like, if this is you, right, speaking to this person, right? If you are someone in a stressful job, if you are someone that your recovery is being affected, those could be answers. I would also go back to, what are you using to track your calories? Especially if you're not seeing your strength increase, because usually if you're eating more calories, your strength will also increase, you know? So even with that, it's probably more of a recovery issue because the strength is not increasing. So the time, I would probably say, increase your rest periods. I would definitely agree that you need to reduce your, maybe, right? And this is based off the information, right? With all these, we'd assume we'd have to go through the scan and go ask these questions. But space out the workouts a little bit more. Also, what training split are you on? Are you hitting?
So that's what they were talking about on the Reddit feed.
Yeah. What is he doing?
Basically, on one day, he has 6 curl variations. So, and his calories didn't go up, right?
Yeah,
so
so he's probably expending way more.
Overtraining.
Yeah.
He needs a deload week.
Yeah. I just think I think that would be it. Like, add maybe a block of rest so that his muscles can actually adapt to that, and I think that will give him the strength response as well. If you don't want to continue to get fatter, then those are your words, right? You're noticing that you're increasing body fat, then I would also look into the quality of the foods that you're having at that point. You know what I mean? Because maybe you can benefit from adjusting the calories down while keeping that protein high, mixed in with some extra rest days, will probably give your body the time and the fuel to build the muscle that you're looking for.
Yeah, clearly his body's just not adapting to what he's trying to the signal he's trying to send.
Yeah.
Right. So there are clearly things that are off.
Yeah.
That need
6
to be
different
adjusted.
curl variations.
6 curl variations, bro.
Wow. I at that point, yeah. I would hate to see his leg day. Jesus. Ooh, yeah. You know what I mean? It was like that. But hey, man, that's the thing that we want to, and we'll close out on this. That's the thing we kind of want to get to with these conversations. Is there are so many different lenses that we can look at as to why something is taking place. But if we're always willing to go back, buff and change based off of your specific needs and how your body adapts, some guy can go through that same training regimen and be like, this is the best thing I've ever been on. You know what I mean? Just because maybe he's genetically a little bit more gifted, or he's just at a different place in his training where that's a new stimulus, so he's seeing a lot of results from that. Maybe he's coming from more of a cardio background.
Or he's sleeping enough.
Or he's sleeping
and he's
enough.
Eating enough.
Right. So context is very, very, very important. But Yeah, that's everything.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything else before we get out of here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. And traveling
Beyond reps and sets. Also, be sure to follow us everywhere on Instagram, TikTok at Beyond Reps and Sets. On Twitter, be sure to leave a comment and review, and we'll be sure to keep giving